Only one made it out of the Death Labyrinth. A clever human, with a hidden Earth secret asterisk. The galaxy knew it by one name, the Death Labyrinth. It was not just a maze, it was a living, shifting machine built thousands of years ago, by an ancient, alien race no one even remembered anymore. No one knew why it had been built. No one knew its true purpose. But everyone knew one thing. No one had ever escaped. It floated in the empty black of space, a massive cube, the size of a city, spinning slowly above a dying red star. Ships from all over the galaxy came here, not for trade or peace, but for the challenge. Some came for glory, some for the rich prize promised by the Galactic Council to anyone who could survive it, and some came because they had no choice. Prisoners, exiles, and those with debts they could never repay. The rules were simple. You enter the labyrinth. You find the exit. You live. No one ever reached the last step, every cycle. The Death Labyrinth opened for a new group of challengers, and every cycle, the galaxy tuned in to watch the feed. Billions of beings across hundreds of worlds sat in front of screens, waiting to see who would die first. It was sport, it was entertainment, it was horror, and now, it was time again. The gates of the labyrinth stood open, 30 meters tall, carved with glowing alien symbols that no one could read. Behind those gates was darkness so deep it seemed to swallow the light. Metal walls shifted inside, the sound of grinding gears echoing like the heartbeat of a monster. A line of contestants stood before the entrance, each one chosen or forced to face the challenge. Tall reptilian hunters from the jungles of Drakda, armored insectoids with claws like swords, silent assassins from the moons of Zyra, and at the end of the line, one human. His name was Evan Carter. He wore no armor, carried no weapon, and had no glowing alien implants, just simple gray clothing, sturdy boots, and a small satchel slung across his shoulder, next to the towering warriors around him. He looked small and fragile. The crowd watching the broadcast laughed when the camera focused on him. "Is this a joke?" one commentator said. "Why send such a soft creature into the Death Labyrinth? He won't last 5 minutes." Another replied. Evan didn't respond. He just stood there, eyes calm, taking slow breaths. The announcer's voice thundered across the arena. "Behold, challengers. Before you lies the ancient trial, the Death Labyrinth. Inside, you will find only death. And perhaps, if the stars themselves smile upon you, life." The gates began to move, with a deep, rumbling groan. The massive slabs of alien metal started to close. The contestants were pushed forward by the guards, forced into the darkness, the moment the last one crossed the threshold. The gates slammed shut, sealing them inside. The air inside was heavy. It smelled of dust, rust, and something faintly metallic, like dried blood. Dim blue lights pulsed along the floor, casting long shadows that shifted as the walls seemed to move. Somewhere far away, machinery clicked and whirred. The labyrinth was awake. A reptilian warrior from Drakkar stepped forward confidently. "I will lead," he declared. He took 3 steps, and the floor under him shifted. There was a sudden snap, and he was gone, swallowed by the ground. The hole closed instantly, leaving smooth metal where he had stood. The rest froze. An insectoid hissed and pointed to the walls. "They are moving," it said. Indeed. The corridors ahead were twisting, rearranging themselves like a puzzle that didn't want to be solved. Evan didn't move right away. He crouched down, placing a hand on the floor. He closed his eyes for a moment. The others thought he was scared. He wasn't. Somewhere in the shadows, a faint vibration trembled through the floor. Evan felt it. A rhythm, almost like breathing. He opened his eyes and stepped to the left, avoiding a tile that sank slightly under its own weight. A spear shot up from it, sharp enough to pierce steel. It would have gone straight through his chest. One of the assassins looked at him. "How did you know?" she asked, her voice sharp with suspicion. Evan only said, "I've seen worse," and started walking. The others followed, not because they trusted him, but because he was moving forward. In the darkness ahead, the corridor split into 3. Strange symbols glowed faintly on each wall, none of them familiar to any known language. Somewhere far away, a scream echoed high, sharp, and suddenly cut off. The labyrinth had claimed another. Evan's eyes scanned the 3 paths. The first had no dust on the floor. Strange, since the whole place was covered in it. The second had a faint breeze blowing out of it, but too strong, like air being sucked into a trap. The third, quiet, still, almost boring. Evan walked toward the third without a word. Behind him, one of the insectoids laughed. "Coward, you take the safe path," it mocked. Then it went down the first corridor, 3 steps in, the walls closed like a jaw. The sound of cracking chitin was loud in the silence. The survivors stared at Evan. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He just kept walking into the quiet corridor. The shadows swallowing him one step at a time. The corridor Evan chose was narrow. The walls pressing close on both sides. Dim blue lights flickered under his boots, casting shadows that danced like ghosts. Every step echoed strangely, as if the sound didn't want to leave behind him. The survivors walked in uneasy silence. The insectoid who had mocked him earlier was gone. The Draco warrior who fell into the floor was gone. Already, the group had lost a third of its number. And they were only minutes inside. The air was heavier here. Evan could smell metal, dust, and a faint hint of something sharp like ozone before lightning. It made the hairs on his arms stand up. He slowed his pace. The others grew impatient. A tall, pale alien from the ice moon of Valor stepped forward. "Human, you walk too slow," it said in a deep, rumbling voice. "Speed will get you killed in here," Evan replied without turning. The Valora warrior gave a cold laugh. "I have survived frozen storms that would kill you in seconds. A maze cannot." The sentence ended with a sharp crack. The ceiling, above them, split open. A massive spiked weight fell faster than the eye could follow. It smashed into the Valor warrior, crushing him to the floor with a sound like breaking ice. The trap retracted, leaving only a red smear behind. Nobody spoke. After that, Evan's slow pace didn't seem so foolish anymore. The corridor began to twist left. Evan noticed the faint lines where the floor plates connected. Some were clean, some covered in dust. He avoided the clean ones, stepping only on the dusty plates. The others followed his pattern without asking why. They saw enough proof already. One of the Zyra assassins, her skin shifting colors like liquid shadow, moved up beside him. "You've been here before," she said quietly. "No," Evan replied. "Then how she started? I've worked underground." He cut in. Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't press him. Far ahead, the corridor opened into a wide chamber. The floor was smooth, the walls covered in strange carvings of alien creatures, tall, faceless beings with too many arms. In the center of the room stood 3 doors. Each one was different. One was circular and made of a black stone that seemed to drink light. One was a narrow slit, barely wide enough for a person, glowing faintly green. The last was a massive metal gate with sharp teeth lining its frame. The survivors hesitated. A feathered alien with 4 eyes stepped forward. "I can read these carvings," it said. "They tell which door leads to safety." It walked confidently toward the green-lit slit and slipped inside. 2 seconds later, a wet tearing sound came from within. Something splashed out onto the floor, thick and dark. The green light faded. "Guess he couldn't read after all," Evan muttered. The group turned to him. "You choose." The assassin said. Evan studied the floor in front of each door. The black stone door had no dust, meaning it had been used recently. The green slit now dripped something unpleasant. The metal gate had dust in front of it, but the pattern was wrong to even, like someone had placed it there on purpose. Evan walked to the black stone door. "This one," he said. "Why?" asked a hulking insectoid. Evan put his hand near the edge of the door, feeling the faintest movement of air. "It breathes," he said simply. Without waiting for debate, he pushed the black door open and stepped inside. The others followed quickly, not wanting to be left behind. Inside was a narrow hallway lit by faint red lights. The air was cooler here, but the hum of machinery was louder, somewhere nearby. Gears turned and metal groaned. Evan stopped suddenly. The floor ahead sloped down slightly, almost too slightly to notice. "Stay here," he said. He pulled a small metal nut from his satchel and rolled it down the slope. Halfway down, the nut stopped, hovering in the air for a heartbeat, before snapping upward into the ceiling with violent force. A magnetic trap, invisible to the eye. One of the survivors swore in their own language. "How do you see these things?" the assassin asked again. Evan gave a small smile. "On Earth, minds kill you if you stop paying attention," he said. Then he carefully stepped along the edge of the wall, where the magnetism was weaker. One by one, the others copied him, moving slowly until they reached the other side. The corridor narrowed again. The blue lights here flickered faster. Somewhere behind them, a deep metallic thud echoed the labyrinth, rearranging itself. Ceiling paths. When they reached the next junction, only one way forward remained. Evan looked ahead into the darkness. "It's getting smarter," he said quietly, almost to himself. The others exchanged uneasy glances. "What do you mean, smarter?" one asked. "The traps. They're changing faster now," Evan replied. "They're adapting. And then, far ahead, in the shadows, two red lights blinked on, like eyes opening for the first time. A low, mechanical growl rolled down the corridor. Toward them, whatever waited there was not just a trap. The red lights in the darkness didn't move at first. They just stared, unblinking, glowing faintly in the haze of dust and shadows. The survivors froze. The sound of the machine's growl was low, slow, almost like it was waiting. Evan didn't speak. He crouched down, running his fingers over the floor. It was warm, warmer than it should be. Something big was moving under them. The lights blinked. Then they began to move forward. The shape stepped out of the shadows. A massive guardian machine. 8 legs clicking on the metal floor, each joint sharp like a blade. Its body was round and black, smooth as glass, with the two glowing red eyes fixed on them. It was fast. The insectoid survivor hissed and leaped forward with its claws raised. The machine moved faster. A single leg swung, catching the insectoid mid-air. There was a flash of sparks, a scream, and the alien was thrown against the wall, unmoving. The others backed away. Evan didn't. He reached into his satchel and pulled out a thin coil of rope, frayed, patched, in places, clearly old. The assassin stared at him. A rope. That's your plan? She asked. Evan didn't answer. The machine lunged. Evan ran, not away from it, but toward the wall. At the last second, he hooked the rope around a jagged metal beam and swung himself up. The Guardian's strike hit the floor where he had been standing, the metal plates denting under the blow. From his new vantage point, Evan scanned the ceiling. There a faint vent grate, barely big enough for a person, but it was behind the machine. He dropped down, landing lightly, and tapped the floor twice. With his boot, the sound echoed oddly. He took 3 steps to the left, then tapped again. The echo was shorter, duller, a hollow space. Over here, he shouted to the others. The assassin and 2 remaining survivors ran to him. As the Guardian turned, its legs hammered the ground, the sound sharp and fast. Evan pulled everyone onto the hollow plate and waited. The machine reached them in 2 seconds. Evan stomped hard. The plate gave way, dropping them into a narrow maintenance shaft. The machine's strike slammed into empty space above, and the shaft's cover snapped shut. Darkness swallowed them. The air in the shaft was hot and stale. They could hear the machine moving above, its metal legs clicking as it searched for them. Evan pulled a small flashlight from his satchel, dim but enough to see. The walls here were rough, unfinished, nothing like the smooth corridors above. You knew that plate would break, the assassin said quietly. Not exactly, Evan replied, but it sounded hollow, and I've seen hollow floors before. They crawled through the shaft for several minutes. The sound of machinery was everywhere, humming, grinding, shifting. Finally, the shaft opened into a small chamber with a low ceiling and dozens of strange pipes. Steam hissed from one of them, filling the air with a sharp, metallic smell. Evan walked slowly around the room. The others waited, still breathing hard from the encounter. Finally, the assassin asked, "What's your story, human? You see things before they happen. You hear things we don't. That's not just luck." Evan stopped. He didn't look at her when he answered. "Earth has minds, deep ones, dangerous ones. I worked in them for years. Down there, the rock can kill you without warning. Gas pockets, weak supports, old tunnels that collapse. You learn to listen to air currents, to tiny sounds, to how the ground feels under your boots." He tapped one of the pipes with his knuckles. "That's why I'm still alive. This place, it's just a bigger, meaner mind." The assassin tilted her head. "So your earthborn trick is paying attention." Evan gave a small smile. Paying attention better than anyone else. Before anyone could respond, the chamber shook. A loud clang rang out from above, and dust rained down. The labyrinth had found them again. One of the pipes burst, spraying hot steam across the floor, forcing them to back into a corner. "We can't stay here," Evan said. He followed the airflow again, faint, but steady, toward a narrow gap between 2 large pipes. It was tight, but they squeezed through, crawling on hands and knees. Behind them, the sound of tearing metal grew louder. The gap opened into another corridor. But this one was different. The floor was made of thin, clear panels, and below them they could see moving machinery, huge gears grinding together every few seconds. One of the panels shook violently, as if something below was slamming into it. "This is a test," Evan said quietly. "What kind of test?" the assassin asked. "The kind where the floor falls if you pick wrong," he replied. He crouched, studying the panels, tapping each one lightly. Some rang sharp and solid. Others gave a faint, Hollow note. He began crossing, stepping only on the solid ones. The others followed his exact path. Halfway across, one survivor panicked and stepped onto a hollow panel. It shattered instantly. They fell screaming into the grinding gears below, the sound cutting off almost immediately. The rest made it to the other side in silence. Evan turned to face them. This place wants us scared. Don't give it what it wants. Far ahead, the corridor curved into darkness again. Somewhere in that darkness, a faint rumbling began. The labyrinth was already changing the path. And the next trap would be worse. The corridor curved for a long while before straightening. The red lights in the floor pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat. Each pulse sent a faint vibration up through their boots, as if the labyrinth itself was watching them. Evan walked at the front, his eyes scanning every tile, every seam in the wall. Behind him, the assassin moved silently. The only other survivor, a huge reptilian alien with thick scales and a deep scar across its jaw, walked last. Its breathing was loud, like the slow rumble of an engine. No one spoke for a long time. They had all seen too much death already. The labyrinth didn't just kill, it chose how to kill. And the more they walked, the more it felt like the place was studying them. The silence broke when the reptilian's voice echoed in the narrow space. You knew where to step on that glass floor. It said, you knew how to escape the Guardian. Evan didn't answer. The reptilian kept talking. You know too much for someone who has never been here before. The assassin shot the reptilian a sharp look. He saved our lives, she said. Or he's leading us somewhere that kills us slower. The reptilian growled. Evan kept walking, but his shoulders were tense. I'm not your enemy, he said, his voice calm. That's what an enemy would say, the reptilian replied. Before anyone could argue further, the floor under them shook. A grinding sound rolled through the walls. Panels above their heads slid open, dozens of tiny holes lining the ceiling. A fine mist sprayed out, cold and almost invisible. Evan's reaction was instant. Don't breathe, he barked, pulling his shirt up over his nose. The assassin did the same. The reptilian hesitated, and then coughed. Its eyes widened. A thin stream of blood ran from its nose. Evan grabbed its arm and dragged it forward. Move, now, he shouted. They ran, the mist following them, seeping into the corridor. The reptilian's steps grew heavy, its breath labored. Up ahead, the floor sloped downward into a section with open grates instead of solid panels. Evan jumped down into the grates and motioned for the others. Air comes from here. The mist will pass above us, he said. They crouched low, the faint rush of clean air keeping the poison away. After several minutes, the mist faded. The reptilian sat down heavily, coughing up dark fluid. You saved me, it said slowly. Evan didn't look at him. I told you, I'm not your enemy, he replied. The assassin was watching Evan closely. You could have let him die. Would have made things easier for you, she said. Evan glanced at her. Dead allies don't help anyone. They moved on. The corridor ahead was strange. The walls were smooth, but the floor was covered in shallow water that rippled with each step. The sound of dripping echoed all around. Somewhere ahead, a low humming sound grew louder. Evan stopped. Do you hear that? He asked. Both survivors nodded. It's not machinery, the assassin said. It's alive, the reptilian muttered, his voice uneasy. They rounded a corner and saw the source. In the center of a wide room, something floated just above the water. It looked like a sphere made of black glass. Thin tendrils hung from it, twitching gently in the air. The humming came from deep inside it. It was beautiful and wrong. The reptilian took a step forward. Evan grabbed his arm. Don't touch it, he warned. The reptilian pulled away. Why? It's not moving. The sphere pulsed once. A tendril shot out, lightning fast. It grazed the arm, and instantly the scales where it touched turned to brittle stone. The reptilian roared in pain. Stepping back, Evan scanned the room quickly. There was only one exit on the far side, but it meant passing close to the sphere. He knelt, running his fingers through the water. There was a current, faint, pulling toward the exit. That meant there was a path in the floor that avoided the tendril's reach. Follow my steps exactly, Evan said. He moved slowly, stepping where the current was strongest. The sphere's tendrils swayed, brushing the air but never quite touching them. The humming grew louder with each step. The reptilian's breathing was ragged, but he kept up. At last, they reached the far side. The assassin slipped through the exit first, then Evan, then the reptilian. As soon as they were out, a loud splash echoed behind them. The sphere had moved for the first time, sliding toward the exit like it wanted to follow. They didn't wait to see if it could. The next corridor was narrow again. They walked in silence until the reptilian finally spoke. "You lead, human," he said. "You find the traps before they find us." Evan didn't answer. His mind was elsewhere, because as they moved deeper, the patterns in the walls were changing. The same strange carvings they had seen before. Only now, they looked less like random alien art, and more like a map. And if it was a map, then the labyrinth was letting him see it on purpose. The walls seemed to press closer the deeper they went. The faint carvings that Evan had noticed before were everywhere now. Curving lines, sharp symbols, strange shapes, all blending together. To the others, it was just alien decoration. But to Evan, the more he looked, the more it felt like direction, like the walls were trying to tell him something. The assassin noticed him staring. "You keep looking at the walls," she said. "They change," Evan replied. The reptilian snorted. "Everything in this cursed place changes." "No," Evan said quietly. "These are guiding us somewhere." The reptilian stopped walking. "Guiding us. Or guiding you." The air between them went tense. The assassin shifted her weight slightly, her hand moving toward the small blade she carried. Evan kept his hands visible. "If I wanted to get you killed, I wouldn't have saved you from the poison mist," he said. The reptilian's eyes narrowed. "Or you saved me, so I could protect you until you no longer needed me." Before Evan could respond, the floor under their feet gave a low groan. A grinding sound rolled through the walls. The corridor ahead split into two passages, one glowing faintly with blue light, the other completely dark. "We take the light," the reptilian said immediately. "No," Evan replied. "Why not?" Evan pointed to the blue-lit floor. No dust, no scratches, no signs of wear to perfect. "That's bait," he said. "We go dark." The reptilian stepped closer, towering over him. "You keep making the choices," he said, his voice low. "I'm done following you." And before Evan could move, the reptilian's huge hand shot out and shoved him hard toward the dark corridor. Evan caught himself on the wall, the echo of the shove still in his chest. The reptilian looked to the assassin. "Come," he ordered, moving toward the lighted path. The assassin hesitated. Her eyes flicked between them. For a moment, Evan thought she might follow him. Then she turned and went with the reptilian. Evan watched them step into the blue-lit corridor. The light brightened around them. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the floor split into thin sections, each piece sliding apart like puzzle tiles. The reptilian roared as he dropped into a sudden pit. The assassin grabbed the edge, but a blade shot down from above, forcing her to let go. Her scream echoed for a second, and then nothing. The corridor sealed shut. The blue light went dark. Evan stood alone. The only sound was the slow, steady thump of his heartbeat in his ears. He turned toward the dark passage. If the labyrinth had wanted him dead, it could have done it already. That meant it wanted him to keep going. That thought didn't comfort him. The darkness ahead was thick. He took out his small flashlight, its weak beam cutting only a short distance. The air was cooler here. Every few steps, he saw more of the wall carvings, and now they were clearer. They formed a continuous line, twisting and curling deeper into the maze. He was following a path that no one else had ever noticed. The corridor opened into a large chamber. At first, it seemed empty. Then he heard it, a faint, steady sound, breathing, low and slow, like something sleeping. He moved the flashlight beam across the room, and froze. In the center was a massive shape, not a machine this time, but something organic. Its body was coiled like a serpent, its skin smooth and pale. Dozens of thin tubes connected it to the walls, pulsing with faint light. Its eyes were closed. It didn't look dead. It looked waiting. Evan stayed near the wall, moving in a slow curve toward the other side of the chamber. Every step was careful. He knew one wrong sound could wake it. Halfway across, his boot pressed down on a metal plate that clicked softly. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the silence. The creature's eyes snapped open, solid black, reflecting the red glow of the walls. It didn't roar. It didn't hiss. It simply moved. It was faster than something that size should be. The coils unwrapped, sliding across the floor, with a sound like sand pouring. Evan ran, aiming for the exit on the far side. The creature struck, missing his legs by inches, its body slamming into the wall, with enough force to make the floor shake. He dove through the exit, and into another narrow corridor. The creature didn't follow. It couldn't fit, but the sound of its coils shifting stayed with him until the walls closed behind. Evan stood there, catching his breath. He was alone now, the assassin, the reptilian gone. The labyrinth had stripped away every distraction. Now it was just him, and whatever it was leading him toward. He tightened the strap on his satchel. "All right," he muttered under his breath. "Let's see where you want me to go." The floor under his boots began to move. Not a trap, this time, but a conveyor. It pulled him forward into the darkness. And he didn't fight it. The moving floor carried Evan deeper into the labyrinth. He didn't know how long he'd been traveling. Time had lost meaning here. No sun, no sky, just metal walls and the steady hum of unseen machines. The conveyor finally slowed. Ahead, the corridor widened into a massive archway. Beyond it lay a chamber unlike anything he had seen so far. It was enormous. The ceiling disappeared into darkness. The walls were covered in strange shifting panels, each one sliding and rotating like pieces of an endless puzzle. In the center of the room was a raised platform, and on it, a single pedestal with a glowing sphere. The sphere was about the size of a human head. Its light wasn't steady. It pulsed, like a heartbeat. Every time it pulsed, the air in the chamber seemed to thicken. Evan felt a weight on his chest. Not just fear, something heavier, older. He stayed in the shadows, scanning the room. No movement. No obvious traps, but this was the labyrinth. Traps didn't always announce themselves. He took one step forward. The floor rippled beneath his boot. Panels in the walls shifted faster. A deep voice, not human, not alien, but mechanical, spoke in a language he couldn't understand. The sound rolled through the chamber like thunder. Evan froze. The voice repeated, slower this time. The words meant nothing to him, but the tone felt like a warning. He studied the floor again. The panels formed faint patterns, circles, arrows, lines, and each time the sphere pulsed, the patterns changed. It was a puzzle. One wrong step, and the floor might drop him into nothingness. Evan crouched, watching the sequence. He counted in his head. 1, 2, 3. The patterns looped every 5 pulses. There was a safe path, but it shifted with the rhythm of the sphere's light. He moved forward slowly, stepping only when the panel under his foot matched the right part of the sequence. Twice. He paused with one foot in the air as the pattern changed mid-step. The air was tense, heavy with silence except for the grinding of the walls. Halfway to the platform, something moved above him. A shadow slid across the ceiling. He looked up. The ceiling was no longer just darkness. Shapes were crawling down from it. Long, jointed limbs, each ending in sharp points. The guardians, not one like before, many. Their legs tapped against the walls as they descended, circling the platform like spiders, guarding a nest. Evan's eyes scanned the room. If he ran, they'd close in instantly. If he stopped, they'd corner him. He kept moving, forcing himself to match the pattern of the shifting panels. One wrong step, and the floor would be the trap instead of them. The first guardian reached the floor, its black body glinting in the sphere's light. It didn't attack, not yet. It paced along the edge of the puzzle floor. Watching him, the others stayed above, tracking his every movement. When he reached the platform, the sphere pulsed brighter. The guardians stopped moving. The mechanical voice spoke again. This time, one word was clear. Choose. Evan looked at the sphere. Up close. It wasn't solid. Faint images swirled inside it. He saw glimpses of tunnels, corridors, an open sky. It was showing him the way out. But there were other images to faces. Alien cities, battles he didn't recognize. The sphere was more than a key. It was knowledge, the labyrinth's memory. He reached for it. The guardians tensed, their legs clacking sharply. The mechanical voice spoke again, sharper, faster. Evan realized the choice wasn't just to take it or leave it. It was which path to take after. One image in the sphere showed the exit narrow, dangerous, but clear. Another showed a deeper part of the labyrinth, a place no one had ever seen. Somewhere the labyrinth clearly didn't want anyone to go. Somewhere it was protecting. Evan's instincts screamed at him to take the way out. But something else told him the real secret of the labyrinth was down that other path. The Earthborn trick had kept him alive so far. The ability to see what others missed. And right now, what he saw was that the labyrinth had been guiding him here for a reason. He pulled the sphere from its pedestal. The guardians dropped from the ceiling instantly. The floor panels began to fall away. Without thinking, Evan ran, not toward the exit path, but toward the deeper tunnel the sphere had shown him. The guardians followed. Their metal legs slammed into the panels behind him, breaking them apart. He dove into the tunnel just as the floor of the chamber collapsed entirely. The sound of crashing metal echoed up after him, then faded. The tunnel was narrow, lit only by the glow of the sphere in his hands. Its light pulsed faster now. Ahead, the air was warmer, moving slightly somewhere down here. The labyrinth's true heart was waiting. Evan tightened his grip on the sphere. "All right," he said quietly. "Show me what you've been hiding." And then he stepped deeper into the dark. The tunnel twisted downward. Evan's boots splashed through shallow water that smelled faintly of metal and dust. The sphere's glow lit the way, pulsing faster with every step. It felt warm now, almost alive in his hands. The walls here were different. Not clean metal, like before. They were rough, uneven, carved from ancient stone. Strange symbols covered them. Some the same as in the corridors above, others older, worn nearly smooth by time. The air grew warmer the deeper he went. A low, constant vibration hummed through the ground. It wasn't machinery. It felt more like the slow heartbeat of something enormous. After what felt like minutes or hours, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. Evan stopped at the edge. The space was so large it seemed to stretch forever. At its center was a structure, part machine, part living organism, a towering pillar of black metal and pulsing veins that reached from floor to ceiling. The light from the sphere matched the rhythm of the pillar's glow. The labyrinth's heart. He knew it without needing to be told. Thick cables and fleshy tendrils stretched from the pillar into the walls. Every few seconds, a faint surge of light ran through them like data, like thought. The whole labyrinth wasn't just a machine. It was alive. The mechanical voice spoke again. But here, it was clearer. The words were still alien. But something in the tone felt questioning, like it was asking him something directly. Evan stepped forward. The sphere pulsed brighter in his hands. Images flickered across its surface. Not just the maze, but whole planets. Ancient battles. Alien cities now long gone. He saw the labyrinth being built. Massive machines lowering walls into place. Strange beings walking among them. And then he saw them leave. The labyrinth left alone, waiting. The images shifted, showing every challenger who had ever entered. Every death, every failure. It had been watching, learning, until now. Evan realized the truth. The labyrinth hadn't just been trying to kill him. It had been testing him, guiding him to this place. The pillar's glow changed. For the first time, the mechanical voice spoke a single word in perfect, clear English. Choose. 2 images formed in the sphere. One was the way out, a direct path to the surface. The gates, the outside world. The other was a deep tunnel leading further under the labyrinth, into a place no one had seen for thousands of years. He could take the sphere and leave, or he could go deeper and see what the labyrinth truly hid. Evan thought of the others who had died, the reptilian, the assassin, even the mocking voices of the crowd outside. They had all come for the prize, for the glory. But now he knew the prize wasn't treasure or fame. It was knowledge. He smiled faintly. "You're curious?" he said to the pillar. "And so am I." He stepped toward the deeper tunnel. The sphere's glow flared bright, and the tendrils connected to the pillar shifted, pulling back to clear the way. For a moment, Evan thought the labyrinth was pleased. The tunnel ahead was narrow and hot. Steam hissed from vents in the walls. The sphere's light revealed carvings that were even older than the ones above. Some showed maps of stars, star systems Evan didn't recognize. Others showed strange machines and towering creatures, with eyes like the sphere's light. At last, the tunnel opened into a small chamber. In its center stood a device. Simple, silver, shaped like a ring, large enough for a man to walk through. It hummed softly, its surface rippling like water. A doorway. Not to another part of the labyrinth, but somewhere far, far away. Evan stepped closer. The sphere's glow dimmed slightly, as if it was handing him over to the ring. The hum grew louder. He could feel the air shifting, pulling toward the surface of the doorway. The mechanical voice spoke again, but this time, there was no threat in it. Only that same single word. Choose. Evan looked into the ring, through the rippling surface. He saw a glimpse of a world. Blue skies, green hills. A place untouched by the labyrinth's cold metal walls. It could be anywhere, it could be nowhere, it could be home. He stood there, for a long moment. Then he took a deep breath, tightened his grip on the sphere, and stepped through. The sensation was like walking through warm water. The air changed instantly. Fresh, clean, alive. He was standing on a hillside under a bright sun. The labyrinth was gone, or maybe it had never been here at all. Behind him, the ring vanished. The sphere pulsed once in his hands, then went still. Evan looked at the horizon. Wherever this was, it wasn't Earth, but it wasn't the labyrinth either. And maybe that was enough. He smiled slightly. Back on Earth, he had survived mines, collapses, and the kind of dangers no one else noticed until it was too late. Here, he had survived the Death Labyrinth. And maybe, just maybe, he wasn't done surviving yet.